This is Matt from the Dice of the Round Table, and this video is going to be breaking down Victory at Sea for each segment as best as I can. I tried this with Cruel Sea, so I'm going to see if I learned anything from that video doing it with this one. So my plan is in the notes below should be the segment points for each section of the rules that I'll be covering, and I'll put a section breaker of some type of graphic saying this is going to be movement, this is gunnery phase, this is so forth. So subscribe to the channel, like the video if you appreciate it, and you're not going to really see me because I'm going to be pointing at the table, going through some visualization with the models and going through it. So with no further ado, let's hit the table. So these are the ship cards. I'm doing a narration over the pictures because on these ship cards you're going to see the type of ship they are on the front, you're going to see weapons, you're going to see all the information, traits, movement, armor value, special abilities, and all the weapons, arcs, and so forth. The back of the card is where it really gets interesting because you're going to have some cards with more and some with less. All the different variants, years, modifications, and this stuff really changes drastically some of the point values and some of the weapon profiles. So pause the video, feel free, look at what you can do, but I just put these ships in here so you can take a look at what the cards look like. Okay, so I do not have the full board laid out because I just want to use this for a simulated type game. This is not a full gameplay, but phase 1 is initiative of every turn. So each side is going to get a D10. So Japanese are here. I have a destroyer and a cruiser. Cruiser and destroyer for the Americans. Have the cards here. I am using the cards on the top. Okay? Nothing about on the back side. Okay? So Japanese, Americans. So that's a 7. That's a 5. Japanese have initiative. They're going to get the initiative marker. I'm going to put that right there so I know. And that is the initiative phase. If there was a tie, they would reroll. Otherwise, that's it. Now we're on the movement phase. So if you remember from initiative, they now have it. Americans don't. The loser of the initiative has to nominate movement first. So I have a Fletcher class destroyer that has a flank speed of 6 inches, or 7 inches, sorry, because it has flank speed listed here. And my cruiser is 6 inches. I am going to move my, I think, destroyer first. Now, movement. You have this gauge. You're going to use this to help with movement and turning. So you can see this has 1, 2, 3 inches of movement. Most ships must move at least 2 inches before they can turn. You can turn as many times as you want. What I'm going to use is this instead, and you can pre-measure at any time. So just so you have an idea, the maximum range on the destroyer for guns is 18 inches. For the cruiser, I have 32 inches. So I'm like, my gun range on the destroyer is like this. So during the movement phase, you also can issue orders. Orders are very general. You have the ability to repair better. You have the ability to make a 90-degree turn. It's called come about. You can create smoke. So if I wanted to, I could create smoke, and smoke is placed at the butt of the destroyer, and nothing can see through it. Let's see, I can evade. evade makes it harder to hit. I can flood the magazines if it's got a really bad issue with the weapons or engines, or scramble for launching and landing aircraft. During the movement phase is when you can launch aircraft. This starter set does not come with aircraft flights, and I'm not messing with aircraft in this one, but they will be launched during the movement phase. Aircraft have to be within 1 inch of the unit launching them. Cruisers have aircraft. They are basically used for scouting and over the horizon, which we'll get to in gunnery. So let's talk about what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and move this, the destroyer here. Set this here. I'm going to move the 2 inches, and most of my guns can fire any which way, but broadsides are best because the light guns on this, only one can be shot in front back. They have better side shots. So I'm going to do this, and then when you line this up, I'm going to zoom in. You line up, there is bow and bow. So you line up the bow of the ship here, and then this is your 45-degree turn. So I can literally line this up here. I think I'm going to go line the bow up here, and I can pivot. Then I'm going to pivot like that. That's 2. I'm going to move the full 3. So that's 5 inches I've now moved. And I'm going to pivot. I get 2 more inches of movement. And then I'm going to hopefully get set up for maybe a broadside and set up something like that. So this destroyer has now activated. Now the Japanese must activate a ship, so it's alternating activation. So the Japanese, I think I'm going to activate their destroyer too. So the Japanese destroyer gets 7 inches. So I'm going to go 1 inch. And then I'm going to turn about there. Actually, I want to go 3, so that's 4. Line up the bow. I'm going to go 5, 6, 7. So now the Japanese destroyer's moved. And now I have to do the American cruiser. The American cruiser gets 6 inches of movement. It's got 2 forward guns that can see everything but the very back of the ship. And it's got 1 rear gun. So what I think I'm going to do is plow on, worry about the main center. Broadsides are awesome, but let's go for that Japanese destroyer. So I got 6 inches of movement, and so I'm going to line this up. That's 3. That's 6. And I'm going to do 1 slight turn like that. And now I'm going to flip these cards to this side since I'm moving this way. Now it's the Japanese side, and Japanese cruiser has 7 inches and agile, but I think we're going to do a a V attack. That's 3, 6, 1 inch, and then line up the bow, turn, and then I forgot to say there's a line bridge right here. So the bridge needs to be lined with it. And you'll see why that's important in a minute. So all ships have moved. Movement's done. Oh, to be of importance, I'm not issuing any orders. But in this phase, if you were going to issue an order, it happens while you're doing the ship. Let's just say that we were doing an evade action for some reason. An evade is automatic. Creating smoke is automatic. Everything else needs a crew check. A crew check is a D6. That's a fail. That's a 2. That's a 2. That's a fail. A success is a 4+ on a crew check. There is no veteran. There is no regular. There's no experience, green, inexperience, or anything like that. We are now in phase 3, gunnery phase. Gunnery phase is when we're going to start shooting. The Japanese player has initiative, so the Japanese player gets to nominate a ship first or aircraft and engage their target. So every ship must attack. If it has no target, you can just say, I'm going to shoot this, has nothing to shoot, I'm done. Then passes. Every unit does have to shoot. Every unit has to be named and associated with that. So you just can't say, well, he has no shot, he has no shot, it doesn't matter. No, you literally have to say, I'm nominating this, nothing's in range, we're moving on. You, oh, this one could be in range, this one's not, so I'm only taking the one. You have to do every ship or every unit. So, how this works. First, you nominate a ship. I'm going to just look at this and see what our ranges are. So I got 16, and you always measure from bridge. So we got 17. This one's actually in range 2. What's this one? 18. So the destroyer, the destroyer has a chance. So, but I have a better chance of removing this from the game if I use the Japanese cruiser. So I'm going to make that a priority. And I forgot to put my damage counters on. So, okay, here we go. I am activating my Japanese heavy cruiser. The Japanese heavy cruiser, I'm looking at it. I got range. So a turret gets, okay, so I have a massive pile of dice because it's going to be a lot of dice. So I look at a turret, which is up front. It gets 2 attack dice. That was in 17.5 inches. So I am just over short range. So turret A, I'm going to assign turret B's 2 attack dice. Turret Q is in the front as well. That one's going to get 2 attack dice. And then I have X and Y. So these are all 8-inch guns. The rear guns cannot shoot this way. So the rear guns cannot shoot from here to this way. I'm okay with that because these are definitely in range of the rear guns. So those two rear turns, I'm going to apply one here, and then the Y turret, I'm actually going to apply here. Now I'm looking to, it has 8 5-inch guns. However, the max range on those is 16 inches, so they're irrelevant. Why am I doing this? I forgot to say. Every weapon system has to be nominated before you fire. The AA batteries are for anti-aircraft. I do have torpedoes. So torpedoes, I'm looking. I do have, let's see. You have port, starboard, starboard, I mean. So I think I'm going to wait on the torpedoes because we're at 17 and a half, so that's long range. I want them a little bit closer. So I'm good with that. So now I've nominated my targets. Now, when you are engaged, okay, so I'm nominating my target. 30 inches is maximum range for visual targeting. Anything over 30 inches, you require aircraft spotters, which the cruisers can do. They can actually launch an aircraft and nominate them for observation or scouting. So having ships with aircraft that can observe is very important to expand your range on the bigger guns, because the max range on the cruisers are 32 inches, so they need aircraft to spot. But the way I have the board set up, it's not that big of a deal. So I'm now going to be looking at what my firing is. The magic number for shooting at ships is 4 on a d6 after modifiers. So I'm going to be rolling for the destroyer first. I have a 5, 5, 5. I have a 6, a 4, a 4, 2, and 1. These really are not going to be able to do anything. 6, 3 5s, and 2 4s. Now let's talk about modifiers. I am at long range. So long range is a -1. The ship I'm shooting is a destroyer, -2. The target moved more than 6 inches, -3. Each of those is a 1. The target is in my port or starboard, so it has a large silhouette. It's a +1. So I am going to get a -2 to my roll. So 4 minus 2 is 2. That's a miss. 5 minus 2 is a 3. That's a miss. 6 minus 2 is a hit. So I have 1 dice that achieved a hit. So now I am going to be doing my damage dice. I got 1 hit. That was on my main gun. So I'm now going to look at damage dice. I get 1 dice. So that's going to go away. I have an AP of nothing. So that means on a 4, or no, sorry, I'm hitting the destroyer. The destroyer has an armor value of 1, which means as long as I got 1 or more, I did a damage to it. Good thing. That was a 1. So out of all those shots, I did 1 point of damage to the cruiser, destroyer, I mean, taking it from a 6 to a 5. Now I'm going to, so I got a 1. Now, because it was the main gun or light guns, it is called plunging fire. So they get a +1 to this value. So the 1 plus 1 is 2. It doesn't matter because I need a 1 plus anyway to damage this. So I go from a 6 to 5 on the damage chart. So that one's resolved. Let's do this one. So this cruiser, it was, let me remeasure, it was 20 inches, so it's still within long range. So this is going to be getting, let's just roll. I need 4+. I got a 3 and a 5. So it is at long range, so -1. It moved 6 inches. It does not get fast moving because it was not more than 6. And it was a stationary target, so I get a +1. So I get a straight die roll. If this was a 4, it would be great, but that's a 3. I did get a 5, so I get to do 1 damage roll on it. It's a 2, +1 because of the plunging fire, so it becomes 3. The armor value on the Northampton class heavy cruiser is a 2, so it's going to receive 1 point of damage, taking it from 23 to 22. Exhilarating. This has now fired. It's now the Americans' turn. I have, this is 17.5. This one was 18.5. The cruiser, or the destroyer I mean, has a max range of 18 inches on the light guns. So I'm going to activate that on the, because that would be, well, I'm going to shoot the cruiser because the light guns, the special rule for the Fletcher is only 1 attack dice may be fired into the front or aft arcs. So it's light guns. I get 3 attack dice, but it's a DP, so you can actually split your light attack guns because it's a cluster of different weapons at different targets. So I could shoot 1 here because it's in the front arc, because I'm measuring from bridge to bridge, and that bridge is in the front arc, roughly at 45 degrees. So that means that my other 2 attack dice can go here from that. My torpedoes only have a max range of 10 inches, so I need to get closer. So let's do this one first. I need a 4. It's at extreme range, so it's a -2. I'm attacking a destroyer, -1, and it was moving fast, -4. So realistically, it's an impossible shot unless I get a 6. That's a 3, no go. This is at extreme range as well, but it's in my side. So I get a -1 or -2 for extreme range. I get a -1 because it's fast moving and moved over 6 inches. And I get a +1 back. So I need a 6. I got a 2, but I did get a 6. So the attack, the damage dice is a 1. So I get 1 dice. It has an AP of -2, which means it is plunging. So I'm going to subtract 2 because it's not a very strong 1 damage dice. It's weak, which means it cannot cause critical damage. And I get a -2 to this roll. So I need a 4+ to damage. So really, I'm looking for a 6. And I got a 3. So the shells just bounce off and glance. Done. Done. Destroyer left. So knowing that this is 18 inches, I'm looking at the Fubuki class destroyer. Its light guns have an extreme range of 20 inches, but only 1 attack dice may be fired into the front arc and 2 in the aft arc. But because of the way the ship is positioned, I have my side arc. I can just go full bore with 3 attack dice here. My torpedoes are 12 inches, so it doesn't matter. And I got AA battery, which don't matter. So this destroyer did move 7 inches, so it's going to be a -2 for extreme range, -1 for being a destroyer, and the target's not in the side arc, so I do not have a silhouette because this is in the front arc. So I get a -3 to my roll. 6 minus, so I got a 4, a 1, a 4, and a 6 was rolled. Because I had a -3 modifier, a natural 6, according to the rule book as written right now, does not automatically succeed. It is only after all modifiers are rolled, and I will read the section to you. For each weapon system on a ship card has an attack die score listed. This is the number of d6 rolled every time the weapon system is fired. For every attack dice that results in a 4 or more, a hit has been scored. However, each attack dice will be modified as follows. All modifiers are cumulative except those for range where only the relevant modifier is applied. At no point in here does it talk about the attack die being automatic success or failure on a 6 or a 1. So technically it was an impossible shot. Done, done, done. Now the cruiser. The cruiser for the Americans has 3 8-inch turns. 2 are in the front, 1's in the back. The issue for the Americans, being 45 degrees, I cannot shoot the destroyer with the rear gun, but the rear gun can shoot that way. So I think what I'm going to do is concentrate all my fire. All my fire, 3, 1. I'm at, that was 20. That was 20? Yeah, 20, 20. So it's in long range for the main guns. So if it's at long range for the main guns, it'd be a 1. It's in the target is, this is where it matters, because the bridge to bridge, the target's in my front arc, so I don't get a large silhouette modifier. So shooting from here to here, it will be a -1 for long range, fast moving target, being a destroyer. So a 6 -3 would be impossible. Whereas if I shoot this, it's in my side, and I'm in its side profile. So it would be 1 for long range. It was a fast moving target, so -2, but I get +1 back. So I'm better off shooting all 3 guns here. So -3, oh no, I said 1, fast moving, you are on the target's porous starboard arc, and I am. So it becomes -1, but still that becomes a 2, that's a 0, this is a 5. So 1 hits. Damage dice is 1. It is plunging. I need a 3+. I rolled a 6. So at this point, I have a automatic hit. Or not an automatic hit, but I do have a critical. Plunging fire, I get a +1, so it's a 7. So 3+, it's a hit. I'm going to roll for damage, but because I rolled a 6, this is a critical, which we're going to resolve in a minute. Damage dice, I get 1. That is a 4. On my damage dice, I got a 6. So it's going to take 1 point of damage. So it's going to take the cruiser from 30 to 29. You know, like, this is taking forever to blow up these ships. Well, a game only can last 8 turns, unless other rules apply. But now we're going to consult the critical hit table. So I'm going to roll a d10. It's a 5. A 5 means weapons. So the first weapon effect, now these are where these tokens come in. That ship's going to get a damaged weapon token. It's first one. And the damaged weapon means it now has -1 attack dice. So -1 attack dice, I'm going to roll a d6. It's a 6. So on a 6, it loses 1 attack dice from all its torpedoes. The torpedo racks have been damaged, which means the torpedoes on the cruiser go from 3 to 2. So this is where it gets kinky. There is no way to exactly know what it is, because on a 1 to 3, it's the light guns, 4 to 5, AA, or on a 6, it is the torpedoes. So there's no way to really say, hey, that's the torpedoes. So if you're playing with a lot of ships, it's going to be like, what lost the attack dice? That is one problem in here. So I'm just going to give you a heads up. You're going to have to, I'm thinking about laminating the cards so I can write on them. But this one now has -1 attack dice on torpedoes. Not too bad. Nothing else is in range. That's it. So that is the gunnery phase. We are now on the end phase. So the end phase says once all ships have moved and attacked, or all players have moved and attacked with their ships and units, this phase is used to complete any action needed for special rules. So in here mainly is damage control and check for escalation. Escalation resolves from critical hit table. It means if you have a fire in the engine room, the fire may get worse if you don't fix it. But in this case, we do have a critical, and that was on the weapon systems. So during the end phase, you get damage control teams. So I'm going to roll 1 dice. It's a 4. So what I need to do, and I'll read it right from the book so you know. For each ship may only attempt 1 damage control repair a turn. Pick a critical area. That will be the weapons because that's the only one on the ship. Roll a d6. For every point that result is above the 4. So I rolled a 4, so my score is 0. It does not fix what happened to the torpedoes. If I rolled a 5 or a 6, I could remove that token, and the torpedoes are fixed. But in this case, I did not. Therefore, the damage remains. The damage crew cannot fix it. Locations with a critical score of 6 and critical hits to vital areas may never be repaired. So what my plan is right now is I'm going to be just tracking how many tokens are on a ship, and when it hits to 6, you can't do anything. Now, hypothetical, escalation. When you have an escalation, you're going to roll the dice for each area that has escalation in it, and it's according to the chart when you get the rule book. All critical areas that are subject to escalation roll must roll a d6. On a result of 4 or more, you go up 1 step on the escalation chart. So, escalation, very bad. Oh, and I forgot. So when you look at the table for damage, it does tell you if there's extra damage. So the cruiser actually took an extra damage, so it's at 28. That's the end phase. We'll go right back to the initiative.